What's going on, guys? I'm bringing you my PvE build today. Um, this is what I run for Fractals and most dungeons. Mainly Fractals, though. I find it works the best. So let's get right down to it. First off, we're going to take full Berserker gear. I do this just because I like the high amount of power. The optimal setup, I believe, I'm not quite sure, for this build especially, I'll get down to it, but it's probably Assassin's Mask, Assassin's Chest, and Assassin's Legs with full Zerk, everything else. But your armor, regardless, you want it Berserker or Assassin's 3-3, either one with Scholar Runes. I take mine with, I'm not fully done yet. I have power infusions and damn near everything. So just to get that little extra 70 power. So this is going to be a pure axe build. So we're going to run axe main hand. If you have your axe in one, it'll always be in both of them. So pure axe all the time. And we do this because the cooldown on this is 25 seconds. It's 15 seconds, 15 and 20. So you won't really ever need fast hands. Nothing better comes out of it. You're not going to be overriding your might stacks with Forceful Greatsword, so you don't need Sigil Battle procs to keep that 6 constant might on you, and you won't need to swap because you're going to be doing axe rotation the entire time. So that's that. It's a bit cheaper if you run Knight in your offhands rather than Force. I do this just because I fractal a lot and I run mostly night dungeons with this build, but the optimal way is probably Knight in your main hand, Force in your offhand weapons, and then with Force in your offhands you can swap them for a specific encounter like Outlaw for Cliffside or anything like that. So and my trinkets, obviously full Zerker. Again, I'm taking all the power infusions I can. I really like to power. I'll show you my fully buffed stats here when I'm done with the traits. So first, we're going to mimic the standard build. 30 in strength. You want Berserker's power. Obvious 15% modifier. It's huge. You're almost never going to eviscerate except for the end of boss fights or the end of boss fights, unless you really, really, really need a dodge, but I don't think that'll happen. Stick and move, 3% damage. It's always great. If you've watched my videos before, you've seen that I hit a 47 or 46k eviscerate without stick and move. Another 3%. I really think I could have hit 50k or above. Axe Mastery, it's the best one in this line. Dual wielding. Now I know we're running Warhorn mainly. Warhorn's the best one. Alternatively, you could take a sword for some encounters. The block on it is super huge. It doesn't interfere with our 10-second swap time, so if you have to use the block and then you swap, it's going, if you swap back in 5 seconds, you'll still have a 10-second cooldown regardless. So you really don't need fast hands. But the way I look at it, even though Warhorn doesn't synergize with it, when you start a fight in Fractals, most of the time, you're going to stack might, you're going to use Call to Arms, you're going to do your blast finisher, you're going to apply weakness to the enemy, and that's all you're really going to do with it. So for most of the fight, you'll be able to just swap to Mace, and you'll get full bonuses from all of this. Next, 25 in arms, Tag of Opportunity. You're in PvE, things are going to have bleed. Bleeds means damage for you. 10% damage is huge. I'll definitely, if you haven't seen them before, I've probably done full X builds or full X runs in some of my other videos. I can hit very huge numbers. Average hit in Fractals for the chain is 7, 8k, sometimes even 10k, and then I've hit 15 to 17k on the final hit. Really, really huge damage modifier. Raining strikes, next best thing, 2% upkeep based on your crits and its internal cooldown. 2% damage for the entire group, really huge. Keeping that 25% vulnerability, it's absolutely necessary, especially for burning bosses down. Critical burst, not really needed. If you do happen to eviscerate, it's going to crit. Your crit chance should be well over 100% with this trait. Next is the upside of this build. So you're going to be running Hailing Signet and Signet of Fury, whether you run 30, 25, 0, 0, 15, or this build. In rare occasions, when there's two or when there's 3 warriors in the party, you can take Signet of Might, and then your DPS just soars because of how much crit chance you can get based off of this trait alone. But most of the time, you're still getting 80 extra precision. That 80 extra precision either makes up for not having Assassin's Gear, which is 3%. 80 precision is 3% as well. Or it makes up for not having precise infusions. Granted, I don't have either one of those, but I still don't think it's very needed in this build. So that's, it's just the best rate. You don't need Forceful Greatsword. You still want Attack of Opportunity. 25 is a mandatory thing in this build or any DPS build, especially in PvE. So, you have to use your trait somewhere. This is where you use it. And then this, obviously, Precise Strikes. It's going to synergize with your attack. You might be the main bleed applier besides another warrior, so you're absolutely going to need that. Another upside to this build is the Empowered trait. When we take 10 in Tactics, by yourself, you should have 3 boons alone, which is 3% more damage. Some dude tried to prove us wrong, or prove Nike, a good friend of mine, tried to prove Nike wrong that, this was a bad trait for a Pure Axe build, and that Pure Axe is bad. Well, we found out that you maintain 4 boons 68% of the time in most dungeons after he analyzed like tons of videos of ours. And if you hold 4 boons, then your effective power is higher than Greatsword, Axe, Mace. And 68% of the time, that's enough uptime to be worthwhile. Especially if the target, like Bloomhunger, like Archdiviner, like the Molten Fractal, or most Fractal bosses aren't against a wall. If it's not against a wall, then Greatsword is equal DPS to a Pure Axe build. So, and that's with only 3 boons. In Fractals, most of organized groups run Hammer Guardians, which will keep 4 out of 5 boons on you. As soon as you're hitting 5 boons, your damage is much higher. I mean, 5%, that's like having another Sigil. So this is kind of the bread and butter of this build in the Pure Axe, because you don't need that Fast Hands trait, which is essential for Greatsword, Axe, Mace. So that's what we get to take here. Now, Nike gave me this build. I was thinking about running it for the longest time because I kind of don't like Greatsword. I've really gotten to like it again after I got my Sunrise. But I kind of don't like Greatsword just because I can't move around. I can't, it kind of locks you into that DPS rotation. Like, okay, I'm going to do Axe Auto, 2, 4. Do I need this? No. Swap. Greatsword. 100 Blades, Whirlwind. Swap back. Blah, blah, blah. Doing DPS rotations is fun, but like if I'm just chilling with friends, doing fractals, doing whatever, I like to ease it out. The Pure Axe build is great damage. You might have seen I killed the Veteran Risen Giant in 10 seconds. I think Goku, Legendary Goku, he killed the vet giant in 10 seconds or 6 seconds, maybe it was 7 seconds with Greatsword Axe Mace. Um, Granted, Greatsword has a bigger burst than Axe, so I can see how he did that, but being able to keep that kind of damage up without the burst of Greatsword is pretty impressive to me. So I I don't think Pure Axe is bad at all. But Nike maintains that this 5% critical damage is better used here than it is in the arms tree. Now, this is pre-patch, so they haven't nerfed critical damage yet, so we don't know how well it's going to be later. But 30, 30, 0, 10 might be a thing. Don't take my word on it. Right now, the effective power you gain from this 5% critical damage is better than the 2% crit chance that you gain from an extra 30 in arms. So yeah, that's just where I stand. Um, I'll follow Nike. I always follow what's best. Uh, it's not like I'm a suck up or anything. I just like to do what's best because it's the best. I like to get things done as quick as possible. Um, so that I have time to go and World v World or work on titles. Champion Legionnaire I just finished about 2 weeks ago. I like to do that stuff. I like to grind my gold. I like to get stuff done as quick as possible, and pure DPS is how you do that. So I'm going to fully buff myself and show you what kind of numbers we can hit. So in Fractals, uh, Scale Venom is probably your bread and butter. I mean, it has no internal cooldown, so you can keep up vulnerability. I think with 10%, that's 3 vulnerability that you can apply just with your Rending Strike trait and your Skill Venom alone, and upkeep that. 5 people do that. It's 15 vulnerability. You can maintain 5.5 vulnerability between your Cyclone Axe and your Crushing Blow. That's 20 vulnerability. Anybody else in your group should be applying vulnerability. Your vuln should be capped at almost all times, and it's something that I love to see when we go in to do fractals. Even as a casual run, when we go to do fractals, we're there to complete it obviously as fast as possible, and every boss should have 20 plus, if not maxed vulnerability, which is huge. 25% more damage, even 20% more damage for the whole group is like having another 2 potions on you. Um, so if you don't get to use the potions, which they have fixed recently, and if you don't get to use them, then Scale Venom is your next best choice. After that, Sharpening Stones, the Toxic Sharpening Stones, they are better than the Hardened Sharpening Stones, I believe. Maybe they're probably better than both Hardened, Master, whatever you want to use. I think Sharpening, because it's 100, it's defined, it's never going to change. Plus, your condition duration increases, which makes your Crushing Blow, Cyclone X jump back up to around, I think it was nearly 6 stacks consistent. And with your Rending Strikes, you're pretty much keeping up 8 stacks of vulnerability by yourself, just between this rotation and your constant crit vulns. So that's always good. So in this build, I run the 100 precision food with our critical damage. This is probably the best one right now. Later, it might change. As you can see, I'm buffed to hit 67% crit chance. With Banner, it's 75. And with Signet Rage, it should be at 93. It's enormous. Like, 92% crit chance is what you want to aim for stacking power. And when you're able to stack power, or when you're able to hit 92 crit chance buffed, then you can stack power freely and not really lose effective power. Excuse me. So that's why, after figuring all this out, I decided to take full power infusions and full berserk gear because I hit that 93 mark. Um, Even with casual food, just the 80 and 8, you still hit that 92 mark. So for your casual runs, even if you wanted to use lifesteal food, you're going to hit that 92% crit chance mark, and you're going to be effective. Um, so with this build, you're able to stack Bloodlust as well. Um, if you swapped for the 3-piece Assassin, you would hit 95 crit chance, which arguably is better, but 3%, that, you know, like, it's only 3% out of, 8. It just isn't enough for me to feel like it's needed or necessary. Um, if you do want to hit that 100% crit chance mark, then definitely take the 3-piece assassins. That would be your legs, your chest, and your helm. And then you want to dump all your infusions into precise. That'll add another 2%, so you should be at 99% crit chance when you're fully buffed and you have those 3 pieces plus the infusions. So I run the power version just because I like to see big numbers. I take the RNG chance of not seeing those big numbers, sure, but throughout all my runs, I don't think I have seen more than 2 hits go by. Yeah, I don't think I've seen more than 2 hits go by that aren't crits. But anyways, in Fractals, you want to take Healing Signet, obviously. It's the best heal right now. It's the strongest passive heal in the game. Um, just nothing can beat it. I don't care what any noob who says that Healing Signet isn't good in high level Fractals is, they're just a noob. They don't know how to play their class. They don't know how to survive with limited um, pools of survivability. Like, just because I don't take super high toughness or super high vitality doesn't mean I don't survive. I'm going to do some Let's Plays with this build in particular, just to show you how viable it is in Fractals and how useful it is for the group. Um, and, you know, sure, I might go down, but I'm almost immediately up every time. Going down doesn't mean that you're dead DPS. Going down means that you fucked up. That's all. I still deal more damage downed than any PTV wearer does while they're standing. I can throw one rock and do just as much damage as like 5 of their hits, so I'm perfectly fine with going down. Um, that usually doesn't happen though because I'm a fairly decent PvE player. So next you'll want for Great Justice. This is staple in damn near any build. Um, use it, abuse it. It's a great skill. Next is Signet of Fury. Now with Spotter, which is something else I forgot to mention. Um, with Spotter, you are able to change this out for Signet of Might. If you happen to have a Ranger in the group, that will keep, that'll add 8% to your crit chance. It's 150, so that should be 8, 7. It'll add 7% to your crit chance. Maybe 8 with all your other buffs together that are unused, but 7 definitely. So, you can freely swap to this. You'll still hit your 92% mark with max food, which will keep you effective. And if you don't want to, you can definitely keep Signet Fury, and you'll probably hit 100% crit chance with Spotter if you happen to have a Ranger in the group. They are fixing the Ranger auto attack on swords, so they will definitely become a viable class for Fractals and every other dungeon. We're starting to bring them into more and more dungeons just because of the Spotter trait. It's incredibly powerful. Frost Spirit, incredibly powerful. Rangers were really overlooked for the longest time because of how shitty they are in melee, and as as people get better at their classes, then they're able to adjust to that horrible auto attack that they have. In your third slot, you're going to want Banner of Discipline or Banner of Strength. Um, I see a lot of pugs that will have 3 warriors in the party, and then they'll take Strength, Discipline, and Tactics. Tactics is a terrible banner. You should never take it. Just don't take it whatsoever. If you're lucky enough to be that third warrior, then you get Signet of Might. Um, Signet of Might is absolutely better than Frenzy, um, whereas Frenzy is, it'll buff your DPS if you use it every 60 seconds. If you use it every 60 seconds. So it means comes off cooldown, it's at the 0.01 mark. As soon as that happens, then pop it, you use it. If you're in a fight. Fights should not last that long, but they will probably last longer than 30 seconds. If it's longer than 30 seconds, Signet of Might is the way to go. Um, so fight should be ending in roughly 40 to 60 seconds. The ice fractal is probably an exception to that, but frenzy you don't want to have just because that dude will turn around and fuck your day up completely with his little ice breath thing. If you have frenzy on, just don't do it, and then you waste frenzy either dodging backwards or whatever. Just Signet of Might is a lot better. It has its uses, especially against um, Subject 6, the Ascalon Asham. When they go into their block form, pop Signet of Might, you pop your Tremor, and it interrupts their block. Your group can keep DPSing without adding the burn to themselves, without proccing Subject 6 stupid ass block, anything like that. So definitely, it's not something to be overlooked. They added a great thing, making unblockable to it. It really helps warriors help keep up that DPS that's really needed in organized groups. Um, Most of the time for fractals 30 to 38 and lower, if you happen to be lower, Signet Rage is going to be your staple. Unless you're with a terrible group that keeps going down, then Banner Battle Standard, that's going to be your go-to to keep those teammates alive. Um, just because it applies 4 might and 3 and it keeps up Fury for 1 minute, it doesn't really make it viable in most dungeons. Like, your group should be capped on Fury, Might, all that anyways, so having that on cooldown, having your swiftness, like, it's there for swiftness pretty much. That and your Warhorn, you give your group swiftness, and you give yourself, that's how you get through all your trash runs. Just Signet Rage is a staple in open world PvE and most dungeons. Um, Not always the best for high level fractals where battle standard is almost essential. I won't say it is essential, but somebody might, you know, need to be rezzed every now and again, especially on the harder ones, like when a veteran chanter comes up and heart seekers you to death. You definitely want to be able to res in that sticky situation. So, yeah, that's my pure axe build, 30, 25, 0, 10, 5. I display it killing a vet giant in 10 seconds on my channel. You can find that. This is the build that I use to hit my 46k eviscerate. I will be trying to hit a higher eviscerate at a later date, hopefully before the nerf. Um, but yeah, this is what I use. Uh, yeah, have a good one.